So in this video I'm going to show you how you can make your very own rear seat delete just like I have. You can do exactly the same as what I've done in pretty much every other car, so if you want to see how I'm going to do it, stay tuned and I'll show you very shortly. I made the fake floor over a year ago and I've got the net and the bar about 6 months ago. Obviously from doing that in separate stages I didn't actually get it to sit how I actually wanted it to sit, so I'm going to be cutting the end off of it here and I'm going to be flipping the bracket around, but rather than doing that on the original one I'm going to be doing it from scratch so I can show you how you can do it step by step at home. So let's get to it. So before you do anything, all you need to do is measure from one side of the car over across to the other side. That's your first measurement. And then you need to do where you want it to sit at the front. Obviously you're going to have your rear seats out already, so look at where you want it to be and then measure it across down to the back where you want it to sit. You need to be aware in the corners like this that there are different shapes in the car, so you need to measure that as well. Draw it out on the piece of wood, make sure it's all right, because if you do it wrong it will just end up looking shit. So that's your first step, so I'm going to do that now. Okay, so you've made your measurements, you've done the width of the car, how deep you want it to be through the car. You have the lines here where I'm going to cut it in the shape, and then over here I've drawn the holes on from where the bar is going to sit. So it'll be sitting like that, but underneath, so you won't see this now. So the bracket's going to be sitting under there and the bar's just going to be sitting at the end. Okay, so another way you can do this as well, without measuring it and stuff like that, it might be easier to get a big piece of cardboard and then make a template out of that, cut that to shape first, and then do it like that. That's the way I did it the first time, but I'm cheating a little bit and using the old one that I've already made. So I'm just going to be cutting the end off of it here. So once you've sawed the edges off, just go over it with a file just to make it nice and flush on each corner, and it will help it from stopping to rip the carpet as well. So I'm just going to go and do that now. Right, so I've cut the edges off, fold it all down so it's all round, so there's no sharp edges. Like I said earlier, another way you can do this is you make a template with a piece of cardboard in the back of your car. You can adjust it as you go along and make little adjustments, and then you can put that on top of your piece of wood and then draw the lines in from that. So I've made my mark now where I'm going to drill the hole for the bolt to go through to hold the bracket on. I've made sure it's even at both ends so it's nice and central. Okay, so this next stage is entirely up to you whether you do it or not, but I'm going to be using this blanket that I had in the shed. It's actually supposed to be for our dogs, and this piece of wood was just laying in the shed as well, so I thought why not use it. I'm basically going to be spraying the adhesive on the wood, and then I'm going to be folding the blanket over like that, and then again spraying the adhesive on the top, and then putting the blanket back over again so it's a double layer. Like I said, it's entirely up to you if you do that. I just found the last time that I did it, it did actually make it a lot better to have a bit of cushion underneath. Okay, so your blanket's now in position. You don't have to do this, you can go straight to the carpet. But what I'm also going to do is, because I've drilled the holes for the bolts, I'm going to put the bolts underneath the carpet so that when the bracket goes underneath, this will be covered by the carpet, and all you're going to see is this metal bar at the front. Right, so the bolts are in the holes, blanket's in position, so I'm just going to pull it over on this side and then clamp it at each end so the blanket stays in position, because when you put this adhesive on you want to make sure it's really tight.
I'm just glad you covered that stain, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. So, putting the blanket back over again, it's in position on each side. And get your adhesive. Nice thick layer. Pull the blanket over. Pull it tight over the edges. And just flatten it. Make sure you put pressure all the way across the board so the glue sticks properly. Right, so now we're doing the same process, doubling the blanket over. You want it to overlap at the front a little bit, just so that you can tuck it under. And once you've got it so it can tuck under like that, get your clamps again. Pull the blanket back over again. And go again with the adhesive. Make sure you're pulling it tight, it's nice and smooth. Make sure there's pressure all the way across, and then again we're just going to leave that to dry for another 5 minutes. So the next stage we're just going to go around and just trim it about 3 inches, just so you can overlap it like that. You don't want all this excess hanging down, so you can use a knife or a pair of scissors or whatever you've got. Okay, so now you've trimmed the edges, we're just going to stick it on the back side. Again, just pull it over nice and tight. This is going to be the underside of the actual delete anyway, so you're not going to see any of this. It just makes it nice and smooth around the edges if you pull it tight. And then again, just pull that layer back. And do the same. So now you're just going to go all the way around the edge, doing the same thing, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so your base is now ready to go. So you've got the bolts sitting under there. You can hardly see them now, so once the carpet's on, you ain't going to see them at all. So the next stage is to start wrapping it with the carpet. Lots of excess material on the sides, which is always good. So just put it all over, get it in the position where you want it, and again clamp it on either side, keep it in place. And then again, pull the carpet back over, and then we're going to spray it with adhesive again. And then especially on this layer, you just want to make sure it's really tight. So now this last strip, obviously the clamps were here earlier, so we couldn't get enough glue on this side. So just put the clamps on the other side, just to hold it tight. I'm just going to give a quick layer over here, so that it's stuck all the way across the board. And that way it'll be nice and tight. So now again, the same as we did with the blanket earlier, you're just going to trim it, this edge of it there, you just want about 4 or 5 inches so that it overlaps on the back. So now, the bolt comes through there, so I'm going to lay the carpet. So that goes straight over, and it's nice and snug on the edge. Like that. So then when we glue it, the carpet comes over nice and flush like that. Again, you're not going to see this on the other side, but it just makes it able to be tight on the edges. So now I'm just going to stick the last few bits down. And what's also going to make it easier as well in the corners is if you run from where the point is and then go in a little bit, just run a line like that, because then when you fold it over, that one goes like that and then that one goes over the top, so it makes it nice and tight. These corners aren't as bad because it's not such a sharp corner like that, so you can just fold them over like that and then just peel it up a little bit. So you've glued all the edges down. As an extra precaution, you can just staple it. Do a few around the edges just to make sure it's not going to come off. Right, so this is now finished, so let's see if this actually fits. Exactly how I wanted it. Bar is right at the front. This is obviously the bottom, so you're not going to see these brackets or the bolts. You're not going to see it at the top. Perfect. So the reason I've made this video is because for the Abarth printer they don't make a rear seat delete. They do make one for the 595s. So this is the net that I've got from MS Racing, which is for the 595, and I've got the optional extra of the bar. They don't come with bolts, so the bolts that you saw me do earlier, M10 thread is like perfect size for it, and then just put a nut underneath it. So I don't claim to be a professional, but this is just my version of how I've made the rear seat delete, because there's no other options on the market to do so. So just going to put the net on the bar now. So I'm just threading it through the middle holes, because obviously the brackets won't fit through these little holes at the end, are a lot thinner. And that just pops around the end like that. And then over on this end, just do the same thing. So then these bits of the net are just held on through the bar, so they can't come off without going over the bracket. So now I'm going to pull it underneath. Same on the other side. So I'm just holding the bolt down underneath the carpet and then just tightening the nut underneath. So now you can see what I was talking about having the bar on the front bit, so it looks a lot neater, cleaner and a lot more flush. So now the last stage is just to get it on the car, so let's go and do that now. Right, so I'm really happy with how this has turned out. We're just doing the final last bits now. Just going to be putting the straps back over this rear brace. Right, so the net's back in, the board's looking how it should be, everything's in the right place. I'm really happy with how it's turned out. A little bit more information about this. This is the DNA rear brace. This is the one with the tie rods. When I was fitting it, I had to take the amp out that's here and then drill the holes for these ones. Some cars in the older models don't have the holes drilled, and if you have the newer model they have the holes already pre-drilled. Mine didn't, so I had to drill it all out, drill the holes in the tie rods and then fit the bar. It's obviously very stiff. I've got my harnesses attached to it as well, but overall I'm very happy with how this has turned out. So if you enjoyed the video, please get a big thumbs up, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.